The next speaker is Davor Konjikušić, a photographer, but also a journalist who is at the moment based in Zagreb, I think, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And his talk is entitled The Problem of the Artistic Approach to the Topic of Migration, Depoliticization or Production of Knowledge. He holds a MA degree in photography from Academy of Dramatic Art in Zagreb, and he's teaching there as well photography. His work uses photography as a primary medium in articulating his artistic concept, in which he explores the relationships between public and private, intimate and socio-political. In his artistic practice, Konjikušić is combining photography with text, archive, found objects, and video. He has been interested in the role of the photographic medium in establishing power and control relations. I think what you are going to discuss again relates to this representation of images, and photography can be pretty tricky about it. And I think it's nice that Doplgenger dealt with that through this kind of production of moving image, while you are actually dealing with these representational aspects of photography, particularly when it comes to the subjects of migration, where they can really be easily exploited or misunderstood. So, Davor, please.
Okay, thank you, Irena, and thank you for the invitation. And if there are some people that are watching us, big hello to them as well. Just tell me, can you see my screen at the moment? Okay, so basically my idea in this 20 minutes is to tell a little bit about my work, and by telling about my work, actually, I always have that critical approach towards the medium of photography, what Irena mentioned. And once you experience basically being a refugee, in a certain way, it permanently defines both yourselves and the places you left. Years after my refugee experience, migrations became the focal point of socio-political processes. I reached to this topic probably also due to my own experience, so my recent works question the questions of identity. I will not show you all of my work, of course, but what I want to show you that this is my first and the last performance that I made in 2017. And it's made ad hoc in Belgrade in one independent gallery. And actually the name of the performance was The Auction of the Citizenship. And I offered 3 of my citizenship, Serbian, Bosnian and Herzegovinian, and Croatian at auction. And it was a successful because actually people at the end showed up and buy some of my citizenships. So in that way, I question my identity because I'm born in Bosnia and Herzegovina, raised in Belgrade, and then I moved to Zagreb, to Croatia. And actually, one of the works, when I started in 2015, when the question of migration started to raise as one of the most important questions with huge income of the refugees to Europe, I started to work in a refugee center owned by the Ministry of Internal Affairs in Zagreb. And with a group of refugees, we started to work on one book. And the name of the book was We Want to Love You Art. And by that name, actually, we wanted to question altogether that art is something that is reserved for the privileged people. Like, what does it mean to be an artist in the conditions that you are homo sacer, which is the name of my second work. It's not the name homo sacer. I refer to Giorgio Agamben, Italian philosopher, and the second name of my work is Holy People. But what does it mean to try to enter the field of art when you are completely non-existent to the state that you are living at the moment, and that you are basically without citizenship and without any human rights. So basically the role of photography in migration and biometric control of people in migration is the work that I made in 2014. And that's the work that actually was part of my studies at Academy of Dramatic Arts at the Department of Photography. And through that, just a second, I don't know why I can't show you. This is the beauty of online conferences. Okay, here it is. So basically that's the work that also was connected with the refugee center in Zagreb, where I basically put the faces of the people in migration into the shablon that is issued to making a biometrical photography for new biometrical European Union passport. So I wanted basically to play really straightforward between the faces of the people without any documents, without citizenship, applying to that shablon on those faces. So basically the work was criticized, discussed a lot. And here you can see that it started also, I put the posters first on the public spaces in Belgrade and Zagreb, and also documented the reactions of the people. After that, curatorial collective block had an open call for intervention at the new named European Square in Zagreb, and I applied it with this work, and they chose it, but actually the work was forbidden by the council, the city council, and they offered us some completely non-interesting locations outside of the city center. So it was really a question how through photography you can try to give a view to the people which don't have any representational possibilities. So for me, it was really a neurological point when actually my work was forbidden to be exhibited in the center of Zagreb at the square where there are offices of European Commission, which is represented also by the pictures of the people with different genders, with different identities, but actually the faces of the real migrants couldn't be exhibited in the public space. So basically we also made some kind of activist actions after that, but the work at the end was forbidden. And I dealt with the topics of migration in a systematic way because, in my view, the story of migration can tell a wider story about ourselves and the societies we live in: economy, borders, movement, space. Also, at the same time, we are witnessing that the question of migrations is one of the most important topics in contemporary European politics, and that right-wing governments and parties are actually using the question of migration to reach and to have a bigger political support and to produce fear among the others. And also, I like to believe that through my works, I have managed to produce knowledge, while through debates with other authors and critics, discussions and forums, I have managed to question my own artist activity, as well the limitations of the field of art. Photography is a medium through which I express myself, but towards which I have a dichotomous attitude. On the hand, I have always had a problem with objectivization photography necessarily leads up to, with its role in establishing power and control. And actually one of the authors that really influenced my work is Alan Sequoia, which says that there is no photography can be distributed without additional context and in that sense captions. So I had really serious problem with this work, Holy People, because also as a privileged photographer, I objectified all those people. And it was a question for me, should I exhibit this exhibition in state museums and in the White Cube gallery as it. So I continued to work on the question of migrations. In one work, you cannot send a postcard from the bottom of the sea. I wanted to raise a question about the tourism, about the port city of Pula, and how can we connect and interact with the question of migration and tourism towards the migrations that are every day existing on the sea. And today it is really interesting to see that the sea, you don't need to kill anyone basically by hands, but you can transform the space, in this sense, the sea, to a little weapon for all those unprivileged which are trying to go to and to reach the Europe. So basically the Mediterranean Sea, which also Croatia is a Mediterranean country, became one of the biggest blue graves of contemporary migrations, and also I would say a mirror of ourselves and contemporary European politics. Also, my photographic research always includes a lot of different kind of documentary work. And now I'm showing you here pictures that I firstly made on the Hungarian-Serbian border, and it was a long time before the walls and the wires are built up. So in the same year, between, I don't know, 3 months, things completely changed. So this is the place, the Serbo-Hungarian border, and you can see the same points which completely changed in less than 3 months. So you can see the summer and the beginning of autumn completely with the fences, with the wires, with the long rifles, with the people actually completely changing the narrative. And what I really find interesting that as we speak about those topics, the things are worse than ever. I would say that every day we have beatings and the reports from the Croatian border about the migrants that are trying to enter Croatia. There are various reports from Greece, but actually no one is listening at the moment. So basically, I think that we lost that representational battle when we speak about media and photography as well. Also, when I was thinking what to show you and what to discuss about, I decided to show you these pictures, which are not like artistic work, it's more like photographic documentary work from Altina, which is the biggest refugee village close to Belgrade in Serbia, mostly with the refugees from Croatia. And today it is a really important day because for the first time, Croatian representatives, the president and the prime minister actually entered one of the Serbian villages after the war where atrocities against civilians were committed. So this is one of like the spaces completely built up without support of the state by the refugees themselves. And it is really interesting to see like what kind of customs, what kind of integrational processes, what kind of politics exist today there. And all this, about all of these pictures, you know, I can speak much more than this time that I have. But for example, this is one, I would not say a monument, it's more like a wannabe monument, where you see the maps, the nationalistic map of the Great Serbia. So all that kind of nationalistic identity and other narratives are completely, nostalgic narratives are visible when you visit still this kind of places. And we can read it on an economical level and many other levels. And also, I have conducted a lot of work, and this is, for example, some of the pictures that are made in Calais, which was the biggest refugee camp in Europe, on the outskirts of French border towards the UK. And also it was really interesting to see what was happening in that time and what kind of repression and what kind of like a contemporary space the refugees were using. After that, working with Sandy Hilal, for example, in Palestine, I realized how much is important for the refugees and what does a tent mean and what does it mean a moment when you start to build a concrete houses. Also, one of my first trips to Middle East, because I think that Middle East is one of the most interesting and for me most important places outside of the Balkans, was going to the Lebanon, which actually gave me the first insights what does it mean to visit the places and the refugee camps of Sabra and Shatila, and what does it mean in contemporary political history. So like Lebanon was the first place I visited before I went to Iran, and then to Israel and to Palestine as well. And this is the work that I actually made, one of the latest work that I made about the question of migration. The name of the work is Aura F37. And it's made at the moment when one of the Hungarian police officers gave me his thermovision camera. And that was really a strange moment that I had possibility to use equipment, which is 40,000 euros worth or even more. And then in the same moment, I realized that this kind of pictures are actually, I call them the pictures of our conscience, because now for the first time, and as a photographer, I feel really fine that I don't objectify those people, because we don't see their faces, but we can feel the warmth of their body. And the thing that I used, actually something that is used for control and surveillance, and transform that into something that is completely opposite. I think it gives some political statement to this work. So this is one of my photographic work on those issues that actually I can sleep well. I mean, I don't feel actually that I'm using or objectifying anyone, and all those pictures, even that you don't see the faces, are pretty much, you know, like memorable. So, and for me, it was really important that I made these pictures, that I didn't took them from television or from some other places. And I will finish with my last book, which the name is Our House. So it's written in English and in Croatian. So basically, that book is about identity, I would say. And it's not artistic, it's not photographic book, it's something between. And one of the art critics in Zagreb, Boris Greiner, said that this book comes with a finger in a pocket. Actually, I say it's a photographic book, but I think it's much more different. So I will use also possibility to read you one paragraph from the book, and then hopefully we can have some discussions about your presentations and lectures, and also about mine. So I will start with one paragraph here. Your village is engulfed in flames. How are you, my brother? The sound was blaring from the speakers. The old biddy packed her clean clothes into one suitcase, just enough for a couple of days, which turned into 5 years. She never returned. Nobody ever returned. Today, they rot, alive or dead, in distant cities, unwanted at their families' or children's homes, lying on beds in hallways, hoping that their nighttime coughing would conceal their even louder dog-like whimpers. The ones that follow are shit-smeared boots kicks in the ribs. There are no heroes or winners. There are just those who rot and who build houses in wild colors and pay off their drunken cousins' debts. There are no winners except those who erect temples to their foolish vanities, knowing very well that they have nothing except a well-guarded and trenched in secret. So that's from me.
Thank you very much, Davor. Okay. I really like how you actually said a lot about your work, but also like there was some line that kind of you could follow, like also from this moment of movement to the walls and that are erected on this kind of way that people have to actually go through, and then to the camps, and then from these camps to kind of this moment of the house. And that also kind of brings it again to this notion of home that Sandra was mentioning. And I think this is actually that moment when, yes, everybody actually wants this kind of yes, walls, but not the walls that are kind of stopping you from going, but walls that are kind of walls of your home on this kind of different kind of notions. But I would be curious when you were talking about representation and this moment of like when you first started to tackle this issue, I understood that, I mean, it's very clear that it actually you kind of reacted out of urgency because you needed to react on the situation that is happening, and it's really necessary to speak about it in public, and the best to speak about it is actually through your work. But when you started to work, and as you say, there was this problem with objectification, but also how do you see this moment of giving this representational space? Like, does this space necessarily need to have an image, or it can be, or you can understand, or you could see it differently?
Of course, you can see it differently, but I mean, thank you for the question. But actually, I need to question myself all the time. What am I doing? Because those topics are really important, and they need to be criticized by public, by critics, by other artists, by refugees, etc. So the question is all the time for who I am doing this kind of work, what I want to achieve with that kind of work, and what kind of knowledge I want to produce. Because if I take a stand that migrations are actually the social movement, which is not contextualized or not aware that is a social movement, then it makes sense to give that some kind of space to those people, you know. And it really was a powerful thing, you know, to produce that kind of knowledge. And it was nice to see that some kind of artistic work can live its own life, you know. So that was the question. I didn't want to participate in art economy with this kind of work, but giving this kind of exhibition to that group exhibition of Take Home Award in 2018, it was a chance that, you know, like thousands of the people see that kind of, you know, new knowledge. So for me, it was, you know, perfect place if you want to reach out people. And actually, you know, I stopped to be critical towards me and to some other artists about that kind of work, because I think photography can really influence, you know, public space and public opinions. But if you remember the photograph of that child that was published, I think 3 years ago, Kurdish murdered child. I mean, no one at the moment remembers about that picture. You know, there is no commemoration, there is no, but at that moment I was really critical, and I was right, but I'm not sure that, you know, we have the answer how to, you know, produce that kind of knowledge. I think that all of us should produce that kind of knowledge and to participate, you know, but it is really important, like what Alan Sekula is teaching us, that it is really the question of dissemination, how to disseminate the pictures and the idea that follows those pictures. Because, you know, photos are basically the new language, the new semantic that we communicate every day, you know, with smartphones, everything starts to be the picture. So in that kind of, you know, like thousands of the pictures that we are sharing each moment, millions, billions of the pictures, I think that we need to fight for representation. And also why do we need to fight for representation is that we need to fight and to keep and organize our own self-archives. Because, for example, if we go to big stock photo agencies like Alamy or Getty Images, and we want to find something from about social movements, etc., it's almost impossible. You know, it's almost impossible in that kind of huge archives, you know, to find something, for example, from 1968 and student uprising in France. You know, so that's the question: who controls the archives and what kind of, you know, things we can produce? I don't know, did I answer it? But
yes, thank you.